As a motocross racer, aside from talent and skill, what does it take and what are the secrets to landing sponsors and maybe even eventually getting on a team? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. If you don't know me, I'm Logan Lesser, a national motocross racer, having won over 15 state championships and an amateur national championship. I'm an extreme sports athlete and ran a marketing agency for over 4 years, growing it to $30,000 a month. And while doing so, was able to travel the world living in Cape Town, South Africa, part-time throughout the past few years. And I've spent nearly $50,000 on mentors, coaches, courses, and education, learning from the best of the best in business, fitness, mindset, racing, and so on. Now I'm sharing what I've learned and growing my community, the Champion Protocol, linked in the description below. All right, so what are the secrets that nobody seems to talk about when it comes to getting sponsors, maybe even landing on a team, and overall just doing really, really well in motocross, aside from being very talented and having a lot of skill? Now, I will say, I want to start this by saying that some of this is just from what I've observed from like just being in the racing space. My brother's on a team right now, and it's just from what I've observed. But the other part of it is from what I've actually experienced personally myself, and it's the number one most important thing for sure. So let's go ahead and dive in. So the very first thing, and this is stuff that nobody really seems to talk about, because at the end of the day, I heard an Olympic swimmer say this, and it was like so true. And I can say it because I've heard so many pros say this as well, but even myself, like I experienced it big time, that when you get to a certain level, everybody's talented. Like everybody's skilled, everybody's putting in around like the same amount of work. Everybody's like in motocross, everybody's training at training facilities around the country, whether it's MTF, Rainer Training Complex, Moto Sandbox, Farm 14, like wherever else, like people are training and stuff. So like everybody's kind of doing roughly the same thing. And basically what the Olympic swimmer said is they were like, I might butcher this a bit, but they were like, when you get to a certain point, it's 90% mental and 10% skill. And when I heard them say that, I was like, that is so true. Because at the end of the day, like when you get to a certain level, like when you get to that pro level, like the Ken Roxons, Jet Lawrence, like all those guys, everybody's freaking skilled, talented. Even when you get to the level of like Loretta Lynn's and, you know, placing top 10 there or even qualifying for there, like every single person on that starting gate is extremely talented and knows what they're doing, and most likely they're all training full-time at a facility or just training full-time on their own, you know. So everybody's like putting in the work and doing it. So what is that like X factor? What is that thing that makes the difference between the 20th place guy and the first place guy, or even the 5th place guy? Like, what is that number one key difference? And I honestly can say from experience, and I know because back in 2022 is when I figured this out personally, and I've kind of shared the story quite a bit, but like basically in 2021 at Loretta's, I think I was racing the Schoolboy 1 and 125 BC class, I believe. And basically my first couple motos of the week were just terrible. Like I did what I always did, which is I would like be super pumped up, ready for the race. I'd be fired up. Like I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Let's fucking do this. And then as soon as I got to the gate and as soon as I got on the track, I froze. Like I got so nervous and so timid, and I just could not ride like myself. Like I would just go out there and I would literally be like, I use the term froze or freeze because I would literally kind of be frozen. Like my body would be so timid and tense that I literally couldn't ride like myself at all. It's almost like all of the work that I had put in leading up to this, which at the time, if I remember correctly, I was training and living full-time at Quicks Moto Ranch down in Texas. So like we'd been putting in the work, like training in freaking 100-degree Texas weather with humidity and stuff, like it, doing 30-minute motos. Like we were putting in the work, you know, like there was no question that we had put in a lot of work. But as soon as I showed up to Loretta, I literally could not perform. Like I just couldn't show up and ride like myself. And that happened all the time, like at numerous races. That was the biggest thing that held me up. But what changed that week is I actually went from like freezing and not being able to show up like myself in the race, and I was battling for maybe 15th, 20th around there, to all of a sudden, literally practically overnight, I was able to get better starts and fight in the front and not only like start up in the front, but actually battle in the front and start passing people, literally battling for like top 5. And it was literally overnight. And what happened is I ended up finding and working with, actually my mom found her, so thanks to my mom, but I ended up working with a mindset coach while I was there. And like literally I was so just like down and out after those first couple motos. I was like, I don't know what to do at this point. Like I'm completely screwed. And then my mom went on a bike ride and ended up finding this mindset coach and was like, and texted me and was like, hey, just want to throw it out there. And I, at that point, was desperate. I was like, I will do anything at this point. Like nothing can like hurt at this point. Like I need to try whatever possible. And I had one session with her and it went amazing. Like I immediately knew like, okay, this feels right. Like this is, I feel like this could really, really help me out. The very next moto, I did a lot better. Like even my parents were like, that was so much better than the other ones. Like I was able to really go out and show up a lot more. But there was still room to grow and everything. And then I had a second session with her after that. And that's the one where I figured out like my main strategy and everything that really clicked for me. And the very next moto is the one where I went out there and literally was battling within like the top 5, battling and passing some of the factory like guys who were on factory teams and everything. Like I was catching and passing them. And literally while I was out there, like I was in the zone, in my flow, like by using the system and everything that her and I had talked about and stuff. But it was funny. There was that little voice in my head where like I was catching this guy who's literally on a factory team. And in my head, I was like, holy shit. Like I saw the name on his jersey and I was like, oh my God, I never thought I could freaking like battling and keep up with this dude. And I'm literally catching and passing him. Like it was crazy, but it was because I was actually performing at my best. Like maybe you can relate where at the practice track, you're able to kill it. Like you're out there absolutely dominating and you feel like nobody can touch you. But as soon as you get to the race, like it all just disappears and you just can't show up. That's exactly how I was. But after working with this mindset coach, I all of a sudden was able to show up at the race like I did in practice, if not show up and do even better. Because it's very, very difficult to, almost impossible to duplicate the race environment in practice. Like it doesn't really matter what you do. You can't duplicate the feeling of being on the gate at Loretta Lynn's with 41 other racers about to go out on that track for like 25 minutes or whatever. Like you just can't duplicate it, and that feeling and that rush of adrenaline and the nerves and all of that. Like you just can't. But if you can use that and like learn to really channel in your mentality and stuff, then you can actually use the added nerves and all of that to your advantage by like at practice you show up and you're able to perform really, really well. But then when there's that extra added pressure and nerves and all those things and adrenaline that's added when you get to the race, you can actually use that and perform even better than you did in practice. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's what I was able to do. Now, long story short, what this goes back to is the main point of the video, which is like what really is the difference between that top the top 5 guys and the top like 20 guys, especially when you get to that level. It is mindset 100%. And you'll find my other point in this video will be very different than that. So definitely stick around for that one, because that one's very, very important, especially for like getting sponsors and just overall being able to stand out in the sport and everything and do pretty well. But regardless, like the most important thing is mindset. Now let me circle back to that after I explain the other point, because the other point I wanted to point out, and this is more of something that I've observed and I just don't think that enough people are taking it seriously, and I am trying to get my brother Colby to take it more seriously and to get him to really start pushing it more, which is social media and building your personal brand. Because at the end of the day, think about it logically. What do sponsors want? Like what do sponsors really want at the end of the day? Like obviously like getting on a team and everything, like they want wins, they want championships. So that's a little different. Like that definitely comes to that, like getting on a team, that definitely has a lot to do with having a lot of skill and talent and being like the best. But when it comes to like getting sponsors and just doing well in the sport and everything, one thing that I've noticed is that the power of social media and a personal brand is so massive. Because what do sponsors really want at the end of the day? They want to make money. Like that's why they're sponsoring these people. That's why Deegan has all these sponsors. That's why Jet Lawrence has all these sponsors. That's why Jet Lawrence is sponsored by that watch brand movement, MVMT. Like they sponsor him and probably pay him a large amount of money because Jet has such a large, massive audience, and Movement wants to tap into that and get more customers for their brand and make more money. Well, who can the sponsors make more money with? The guy who might be like winning races and stuff, but has 2,000 followers on social media. Most likely, if he's winning like Loretta Lynn's or like massive races, he's got more followers than that. But just take the example as I'm saying it. Like, will the sponsor look at them and be like, okay, they're winning races, but they have 2,000 followers. Like, nobody knows who this dude is. Or do you think that they would make more money with the person who has 100,000 followers, but is maybe getting like top 20 at Loretta's or is like just doing kind of okay with racing? They are going to make more money with the person with followers, and that has nothing to do with skill and talent and everything. So what I'm saying is that maybe you're not like the top person. Maybe you're not that guy who's getting top 5, top 10 at Loretta's. Maybe you're not even making it to Loretta's yet, but you still want to you still want to race, and you still want to maybe benefit from it and everything. And you also, maybe you're not able to like ride all the time. Maybe you're not able to train at a training facility and everything. I'm telling you, from what I've observed and just being in like the business space for the past 5 years, as you saw in the intro to this video, and like just being in that overall space, what I've learned is the power of a personal brand and social media is absolutely limitless. Like if you can really focus on growing that and everything, not only is it going to make it a lot easier for you to get sponsored, and honestly, like brands are going to reach out to you. Like if you've got 100,000 followers, I know because I've worked with and learned from people who have really large audiences. Like I've been coached by Wes Watson, who has like 2 million followers. I've been coached by Tom Nosk, who has like 500,000 followers. Like all these guys, they talk about how they just get reached out to, and then they basically pick and choose, and they're like, well, I don't really like this brand. I don't really like that company. I do like this one, so I'll work with this one. I'll take their money because I actually like their product and everything. That is what you get to when you build a large audience. And if you can build a large audience, then you can really benefit with motocross, like as a motocrosser. And what's cool is that like when you're posting content with motocross, it's actually like cool videos and stuff. So it's cool. But if you can build your personal brand and social media and grow this audience, then it's going to make it so much easier to get sponsors and really go far in the sport, at least like benefiting from it and everything. Even if you're not looking to be a freaking champion or win Loretta's or go and become a pro or whatever, like most likely if you're watching this, you probably are a motocross racer. And even if you're in a different sport, like the same thing applies. It's not just motocross, but you probably love the freaking sport that you're doing and you want to do it as much as possible. And ideally you want to benefit from it. Well, honestly, like that is the best way to do it, is build your personal brand, like grow on social media. And when you do that and you build this following, then you're going to be able to stand out from all of these other racers and everybody, because you've got this audience of people, and the audience is what the sponsors and brands want. So if you can build that, you don't have to be the best of the best to build that, but if you can build that, then you can just benefit massively. And you can kind of look at what I'm doing. Like I'm kind of doing that as well, because I do want to get my pro card. I want to race pro and everything. Like I do, like that is something that I want to do. However, I never have looked at motocross as like my career, like I've never looked at it as like, I'm going to race and that's how I'm going to make money. Like I don't, like I want to build a business, or businesses. And you can see that that's what I'm doing here with my YouTube, my Instagram, all of that, as well as like, if you look in the description below this video, like I'm literally telling you, I'm not even like trying to add a ad or plug here. Like I'm literally saying you can look and see what I'm doing. But in the description of this video, you'll see the link to my online community, which that one's free. And then I've got a paid one as well that's a bit more like elite and has a lot more in it and everything. So I'm looking to monetize my audience and really be able to benefit from motocross and my skills and experience from motocross through that avenue. So hopefully that makes sense. But I just want to kind of throw that in here because I don't think enough people talk about that, of like the power of personal branding and social media. And the last thing I'll mention with that is, look at Hayden Deegan. Like, I'm not going to discredit the guy at all in terms of like skill and talent, because he is seriously someone to, like, I've got a ton of respect for the guy. Like a ton. Like he seriously is really freaking good, obviously. But at the same time, one thing that he's got that pretty much no other racer has, well, I don't want to say no other racer, at least on YouTube, I'm pretty sure no other racer out there really has the audience that he does. So like, even if he wasn't winning, I guarantee the sponsors and all of these like brands, the sponsors, maybe even the team and everything, they want him because of his audience, like, period. Now, he also just has the skills and talent to be able to go out and win. So he's kind of got the whole package. But even if he didn't have that and he just had the audience, he'd still be absolutely dominating and killing it in terms of like sponsors, maybe even being on the team, making money, all those sorts of things. So I just want to plug that in here. But going back to the main point, like the biggest thing really is mindset. And I don't want to make this video too long. So the only two things that I wanted to mention in terms of mindset is that it's not only how you show up at the race, because obviously that's important, being able to show up at the race and perform the way that you do in practice, if not better, kind of like how I mentioned I was able to, or I'm able to now after Loretta's in 2021. But not only that, but since everybody's doing roughly the same thing, once you get to a certain level, everybody's training at facilities, everybody's training with the best of the best trainers, and like they're doing it full time, like all this stuff. What's the X factor? Like, how do you actually get ahead? Well, you get ahead by one of two things, or both. You do more than everybody else, or you do the same as everybody else, but you get more out of what you're doing. And the only way to do those two things is the mentality that you take into it. Because somebody who just isn't that driven and doesn't want it that much, they're not going to do more than everybody else. Because they're going to do what's recommended. They're living in a training facility. They're told by the trainers, all right, we're going to do this today. This is going to be the gym. This is going to be the workout. This is going to be like our training regimen for the day, like blah, blah, blah. Like they're just going to follow that and do it just like everybody else. And then they're going to be like, all right, well, I did what I needed to do. You know, like that's that person. That's a lazy person. Whereas the person who really wants to go all the way and be like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes, like they're going to figure out how to do more. Now, there is something to be said about, I always forget the term or whatever, but it's basically when it comes to athletics and sports especially, there is a certain point where doing more isn't really going to benefit you, and if anything it might hurt you, because you obviously need to have rest and recovery and all that stuff. So I mean, to a certain extent, sometimes you really are doing the most that you should be, and if you did more, then it would actually like hurt you more than it would benefit you. So in that case, that's what comes to the second thing, which is getting more out of what you're doing. And that also comes down to the mentality, because I know from experience training at training facilities, the amount of people who don't really take it that seriously. And what I mean is that they'll go out on the track and they'll just be okay with like, well, I'm just kind of off today. Like I'm just not feeling it today, you know? And then they just go kind of ride around. Like they don't take it as serious. Or another example is like the trainer will say, and I remember this because I was at Moto Sandbox when we did this, and the trainer actually ended up giving kind of a lecture to everybody, and he actually pointed me out and like a couple others who actually like did what we were supposed to do, because the trainer was like, all right, we're gonna go out and do like a longer moto. I think it was like maybe 15 minutes or something, and during that moto he was like, all I want you to focus on is, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something like, you know, feet on the pegs. I think it might have actually been feet on the pegs, like feet on the pegs everywhere, something like that. But basically focusing on something specific. He's like, this isn't about speed. This isn't about winning and beating everybody. This is just about focusing on this particular technique for the entire moto. Now, I went out there and I just slowed it down and focused on exactly that, because I wanted to get the most out of it. And I knew the trainer, he knew more than I did. So I was like, I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to implement this because I know it's going to make me better. And I was okay with slowing down a bit and just focusing on that technique. Well, 9 out of 10 of the other guys who went out there, they went balls to the wall and their egos got in the way and they just wanted to go out and be the fastest. And I was getting passed by I was on a 125 at the time, and I was getting passed by 85s and super minis and stuff, but I didn't care. Like I didn't just turn it on because I got passed by an 85 and I was like, I'm not going to get beat by an 85. It's like, no. Like I slowed it down on purpose because I was focused on something. I wasn't focused on going out and beating everybody. And that's exactly what the trainer ended up lecturing everybody about afterwards, is he was like, the only people who actually did what we said was Logan and then named a couple others. Everybody else just went out and kind of went balls to the wall and completely just didn't even listen at all to what we were focusing on. Now that's another example of what I'm talking about, like actually getting the most out of it and everything. And I'm not going to dig into this super deep in this video because this video is already pretty long, but go check out some of my other YouTube videos because I talk about this a lot on how to get the most out of training and really approach it the best way mentally. Because specifically the last thing that I will touch on with this is, let's say that you go to the track, and this happened recently for me, like literally last week. You go to the track and you're just not feeling it. Like, that's how I felt. I went out to Thunder Valley last week and I just wasn't feeling it. In the warm up, I don't know what it was. I just felt very uncomfortable. I was super timid. The track was, it was right after the Nationals, so like all the jumps were beefed up and everything, which was super sweet. But for whatever reason, I just could not gel with the track. So I got off the track, and it was also super windy. I forgot. It was also super, super windy. So that was also getting me a little on edge. So basically, I got off the track and I was like, you know what? Because of the conditions and the way I'm feeling today, this is not the day for me to go out and just try and push super hard and try and go super fast. So what I'm going to do instead, because it's not like I'm at a race, there's nothing on the line. So what I'm going to do instead, because I still want to get the most out of today, what I did is I just shifted my perspective, or I shifted what I was going to be like focused on that day. And I was like, I'm just going to slow it down a bit and focus on technique and focus on some technique stuff. And specifically what I focused on that day was finger on the clutch all the time, and then my body position. Like, I wanted to keep my knees behind the foot pegs and my stand on the balls of my feet and everything, kind of ride in the same position as like Jorge Prado or Jet Lawrence, just kind of practicing that and really just practicing being in the right form and technique, and specifically keeping my finger on the clutch all the time. Now, that's basically what I focused on. But what's interesting is that the rest of the day went amazing. Like, the second moto I had to kind of adjust, because I had never really, that's why I was focused on it, is because I never keep my finger on the clutch. I never use the clutch. And then also just my like form and technique, like I was really focused on that and everything. So the second moto was a bit of a struggle because I was adjusting to that. But the rest of the motos for the rest of the day, I seriously got in the zone and got in my flow. And I was still only focused on those things, but I felt so good. So I still got a ton out of the day. Now, what I used to do in the past is my old self would have like felt like shit after that first moto and been like, well, this is a waste of a day. The track sucks. I just don't feel good. Like, I'm just screwed for today. Like, I just feel off. And that's what most people do. And that they have endless of these days where they just don't get anything out of it. Whereas if you have this other mentality and mindset, like I did at Thunder Valley that day, like, I still just got the best out of it. I still looked and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to adjust and adapt to the conditions I've been given and still get the most out of it that I can. So in that case, I decided to slow down and just focus on my technique. So anyway, that's kind of what I want to talk about in this video, is just kind of what really makes the difference in motocross, and to be honest, any sport, from what I've observed and also from my own experience, which is mindset. Like, it's 90% mental. Like, I can say that in full confidence because I've experienced it personally. So it really does come down to mindset. And then the other thing, which I feel like nobody really talks about, is the power of really building a personal brand and social media. I know these two things are like so different, but I just want to touch on them because I really do think they are a game changer to focus on. But anyway, if you enjoyed the video, then definitely feel free to subscribe for more stuff like this. And also check out if you're a racer, check out my free community linked in the description below. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.